Welcome to Embedded Insiders. This is Laura Dolan, Technology Editor with Embedded Computing Design. Yes, I am. I am here with Rich Nass, Open Systems Media's Executive Vice President, Alix, our Senior Technology Editor, and Brandon Lewis, Editor-in-Chief for Embedded Computing Design. And guess what? We're all in the same room for the very first time.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Very surprising.
Video version of the Embedded Insiders for, as Rich likes to say, for all of those, all of you who wanted to know what we look like. Got faces for radio. So.
We actually just do this for my mom. But that's another story. Anyway, we are in our Scottsdale office in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. It's actually cooler here than where I come from, but that's okay.
This it's March. This time of year is why people live in Arizona and endure the 115 that's coming for us in the next couple of months.
And it's coming for you.
It's coming.
Okay, now I know we want to talk about APEC, but we just got to say we have an office NCAA pool. What place are you in, Brandon?
I think I'm in like 4th or 5th.
Out of 5.
Yikes.
No, there's got to be 10 or 11 of us. But, I took some risks, and, they say no risk it, no biscuit. You're not doing too well yourself.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
I stayed out of it.
Yes.
Okay,
Wise
APEC.
man.
APEC was in Anaheim last week.
Yes, sir.
And the rumor is that it's bigger than it was in the past. That
It's bigger than it's ever been. I mean, you've been there.
Bigger and better.
I think they had like 6,000 attendees this time, several hundred exhibitors. Biggest show they've ever had. It filled an entire hall at the Anaheim Convention Center.
What about power? Has anything changed?
Everything. Well, come on. We had this conversation before.
Power doesn't move nearly at the pace of embedded.
But embedded is driven by power.
Embedded is driven by
no
power.
electronics without electricity. Now, because we were talking about that earlier, everything's embedded computing now. I mean, there's logic down to the board level now in power. There's logic down to the board level in almost every application. If I've got a little wireless device and I'm drawing power, yes, it's a sensor issue. Yes, it's a system issue. But then there's also the power issue, the overall power issue, not just the chip.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you think that the power begins and ends with the chip, then you're screwing up because it's the system design, it's choosing the right components, all of that stuff.
I always think of power as being, I mean, I know power is an issue, but I always think it's actually a heat issue. That's a bigger concern, the thermal issues that have to do with power.
Well, that's the other side of the coin. I always say power management is thermal management.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these advances that we're having in efficiencies and system efficiencies, it does address thermal. Because if I have, say, an 85% efficient device and it's a earpiece, it's going to get hot in my ear. But if I have 90%...
I'm going on record saying, when you say efficiency, that's a meaningless term. But we can come back to
That's
that.
another episode.
Yes. It is.
Well, because you're right. But then again, there's the device efficiency, which is meaningless. But there is the system efficiency is meaningful. But too many people look at the system efficiency as a secondary issue over the device.
What's a system?
Well, a finished product.
It is interesting.
Is it a car?
Yeah, how are you going to calculate that?
Okay, well, the efficiency of a car is going to be different than the efficiency of a server.
This is true. But if I'm a car designer, I still have to worry about efficiency. I'm going to achieve it in different ways. But I still have to worry about it.
But the number to compare against a different system doesn't mean anything.
No, they're apples and oranges. I mean, but within a consistent system, you can. If I'm comparing 2 cell phones, I can say who's more efficient. 2 cars, I can say who's more efficient. I can't compare a car to a server, but I compare 2 servers to each other.
You don't think the 2 cell phone guys can do something with the numbers to make them both be better?
Of course they do.
Well, I came out of high-end audio. You're going to talk about magic numbers.
The guys to know efficiency are the guys who make the watches.
I love my watches.
That's efficiency. Anyway, where are we going with this?
Well, where we're going with this is, I think the fact that you brought up the whole efficiency issue brings open a serious issue in the industry because some people think power and efficiency is just designing a good power supply. Some people think power and efficiency is picking the right components, but it's both, and it's the circuit design. It's everything, and it's a package design because, as you say, it's part thermal management as well. So I can have a very efficient system, and if I'm not cooling it efficiently, even if I have very little heat, that heat could build up and damage my system.
Yep, it's embedded design.
Boom.
But it was another point that you raised about just having the efficient part doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily mean your overall design is efficient. You have to know how to use that part.
Exactly.
And a lot of that comes down to the software.
I would say it comes down to both the software and the engineer, because if I mismatch my antenna on the board, I'm going to lose a lot of power that has nothing to do with software. It has to do because I don't know how to design the system properly. But then again, I can have the proper matching, and then I screw up in the software, and then I waste it on the back end. So I think it's a gestalt.
But if you use artificial intelligence and just let it design itself, then you don't have to worry about that.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. The only problem I have with AI is if you have a learning system and it learns, what code did it use? It's a black box. It's a solution, but how do you know what the AI is doing inside there?
I heard something along these lines at a conference I was recently at, where a ton of traffic on the IoT is now going horizontal east-west. That's scary. Systems talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that Facebook chatbot incident we found. Yeah, they're creating their own language.
And they had to shut them down.
But isn't that a good thing to have the machines talk to the machines?
No machine conspiracy to overthrow humans.
Yes. Haven't you ever seen any of these artificial intelligence sci-fi movies?
Any Simpsons episode.
Right.
So we're basing all our logic on the Simpsons now.
You know, one thing we were talking about earlier, Alix, was that Moore's Law, the end of silicon, and you piped in with what's going on in wide bandgap semiconductors.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit to what you saw there and how some of the wide bandgap semiconductors have some promise as it relates to silicon and silicon transistors scaling economics?
Well, that was a very interesting thing I saw at APEC. The wide bandgap is finally here. You know what I mean? Like last year was when the big coming out.
Right.
But this year, everybody's talking about wide bandgap. There are real products in the booths. They're shipping real quantities of product. And the interesting
product, you're bringing chips.
Chips, right, power chips and all. But then again, there are a lot of finished solutions. Like Navitas is doing a tremendous amount in the aftermarket wallboard, which you don't think about it, but that's a lot of devices out there, which is why they were able to throw such a big party this year. But the thing about wide bandgap is it does allow leapfrog in performance, so it does kind of circumvent Moore's Law in that sense. But the other side of the coin is that it's inspiring the silicon people to do better. Because, I mean, for the longest time, silicon put up with inefficient packaging, TO-247s and all, and now that wide bandgap's there, silicon's like, well, we got to up our game.
Right.
So this year at the show, half the semiconductor companies, silicon-based, had said, this is the smallest, most powerful. I mean, if I just had a rubber stamp, the smallest, most powerful, and just went around the booths. So it's silicon pushing back. They know that wide bandgap's there threatening their cheese, and so they're saying, wait a second, wide bandgap's not there quite yet, and you can get silicon devices that can still outperform. So that's why I'm saying the silicon strikes back. I think you're going to have some years of crossover and parity, and of course then wide bandgap will slowly pull away.
Right.
But right now it's the best of both worlds. The silicon guys are making really good products now to compensate.
So those lazy ass silicon guys needed a kick in the ass. Is that what you're saying?
I would like to think of it as the inertia in the industry is being overcome by market pressures. You know what I'm saying?
Great euphemism.
Speaking of inertia in the industry, you have something that's famous or infamous. Your Tchotchke index.
Yes, I like to talk about that.
Yeah, explain the Tchotchke index.
Okay, now this is a legitimate, semi-legitimate.
Wait, you got a bunch of keychains?
Well,
that's the thing.
Completely illegitimate.
Right. But it's my informal marker on the industry. Because if you think about it, you go to a trade show, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a bowl of candy and there's some pencils. Right. That company's in trouble.
I like candy.
But I'm saying though, but then if you go to the booth and they got the candy bars, it's like going trick or treat. You go to the old lady, she's got a full size Snickers. You want to go to the full size Snickers house, and so if a company's got high end giveaways,
swag, yeah.
If they got good swag, then they're fleshy. They got money because what's the first thing that goes? The marketing budget, and what's the first thing that goes in the marketing budget? The free crap. So if you're going to so there are two things to come away with, like. If they're giving away adapter dongles for charging phones, they're either in really good shape or they're going to go out of business in a couple of years because they're wasting their money. What do you think about that aspect now that I've explained the Tchotchke index?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Well, who are the most likely vendors at APEC to either go like gangbusters or go out of business in the next couple of years?
Hang on a second. Didn't we give away drones?
That means we're players.
That would put us in the stratosphere.
That means
Or
we're
we're
doing
in
well.
trouble.
Or
We're gonna be out of business.
well, I wouldn't have joined you guys if you were in trouble. So obviously it's a positive.
We are in
trend.
the stratosphere of media coverage.
Yes.
Well,
I'm
okay.
buying that one.
But okay, let's talk about a serious item there. All right, let's address the Tchotchke index from a more serious point of view. From our point of view, at the Embedded World Conference, we had a booth that had a display area with speakers. Mm-hmm. We had we're giving away T-shirts. We're giving away all kinds of really interesting stuff. People actually lined up to get the stuff. We had partner technology displays in our booth, and I've never seen that in a publishing company. I was really like, hey, I'm with the right people, because you don't see that. You don't see the partner technology demos in a publisher's booth. You see them at the distributor's booth.
Yep.
So we're actually acting in one sense more like a distributor than we are as a publisher, but then that just shows the strength of our market, because we can pull these partners into our booth and we can give away all of this stuff because we're publishers. We're not doing it we're not extending. No, this is no speculatory money. Whereas in some companies, the marketing department get a ton of money and then spend it all in a blast. Publishers, we have to be a little more cautious about it. So I would make the argument that by the Tchotchke index, we're doing well.
We are kicking ass.
See, that's the kind of stuff I'd like to hear.
Yes.
Sorry, Mom.
Well, but think about it, Rich, right? When was the last time, and the thing is, editors, we get crap that we don't even want or need. When was the last time that you actually got something that was useful as far as tchotchkes? Because that's the other side of the Tchotchke index. Half this stuff is useless.
I'm not buying that. I like the tchotchkes.
Oh, you do? You like even the useless
ones?
ones?
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't take the useless ones.
So you discriminate.
I take every pen I can get, so pens come in handy.
I'm a pen grabber too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love pens.
I do.
Well, I just come back to the office and I give the pens away. I walk from cubicle to cubicle and I go, hey, you need some pens?
A lot of times.
No, you need a pen? Go to Brandon's car.
Yeah.
I just discovered this morning. Brandon
prepared.
has more pens than he could possibly need in his car.
Unless they all explode at once. And
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're in Phoenix. They're probably all dry.
Well, that's why I keep them
worse.
back in the cubby. So they're inside the dash. So
Still gets hot in there too.
But I also like the after lunch mints. Because you have some meetings, you don't have bad breath. The mints are good.
This is true. The bowl of mints is always good. See, but usually those companies, because that's the thing, if they're really cheap, they don't even have the mints. They've got like the little, whatever the sugar candy that's shaped like a whatever.
Like Werther's Originals or...
Well, actually, those are good. I like those.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Moving on. As it were.
Moving right
Get
along.
off topic here.
But then again, but then I do think, for example, that does show strength. For example, in the case of APEC, and it lends to, because it's easier to say because there were 6,000 attendees, it's a healtly industry, not because they're giving away cool stuff at the booths.
So,
but
is this leading up to, did you get some cool tchotchke at APEC? Is that where you're going with this?
Actually, well, no. The coolest tchotchke at APEC was an adapter cord that had Apple micro USB and USB-C on it. That you could just plug into whatever you're using. They were lining up for that toy.
They were giving those away?
They were giving up. See, that's a healthy company.
I was actually going to say you have to be a geek if you like that, but I want one of those.
See, there you go. So, to extend that analogy, then APEC was a very strong show, and then the show itself was giving away cool stuff as well. So I think, granted, like I said, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it's an indicator. Wouldn't you say, Brad?
Yeah. I like the Tchotchke index. I might assimilate it into my usual show routine. So
There you go. Maybe we'll even grab a couple, do a comparison next time.
Yeah, we'll just have a big pile of tchotchkes. Be on the lookout for us at the next show.
So that'll be
Coming to
the
a show
OSN
near-
benchmark.
Yes.
We have the MIPS rating,
You're
we have
right.
the megahertz rating,
Exactly.
we have the tchotchke
Right.
benchmark.
This gives me an opportunity to bring up something else that I would love to have us do. And I'm doing it in front of the audience, so that way I can at least be heard. I want to do a stock index.
Okay.
I want to do a stock index of our, supporters, advertisers, and
Stocking?
stock. No stock.
Oh, okay.
Because for example, we do business with a lot of very good companies in the industry, but not every company in the industry. So we can almost set it up as a separate stock index and go the OSM stock index, the people that we deal with, and
We
they're all
should
cool
probably
people.
talk about this stuff off camera before we bring it on.
But then that's kind of related to the Tchotchke index, but a stock is a little bit more
A little bit.
solid indication
A little bit.
of company health. What do you think, Laura?
I think that's a great idea.
See,
I think that'd
boom.
be a lot of fun.
And we index it stocks versus
Yes.
tchotchkes.
Yes. It'd be a great analysis.
So, what are some major activities in the marketplace that could make a stock go up or down in our stock index?
Well, in our
I know
stock
it
index,
go down, I'm sure.
well, I'll give you a good example. I'll give you a very good example. I just interviewed, at APEC, I interviewed Chris Trees. He's the CEO of United Silicon Carbide.
Right.
They just announced a major buy-in by Analog Devices. Analog Devices is buying a third of the company with options
just
to
you
buy
mentioning
more.
it, his stock is going through.
Boom. Well, and that's the thing. So that's a perfect example of something that we have inside. And now, it's not inside information because it's announced,
Did
but
you buy the stock before this?
I wish I had that
video?
kind of money.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that that's an example of something that we have an observation on, that it's a scoop that we have given to the industry, and it does impact prices. But even if we weren't the ones to break it, as United SIC stock goes up, our index would go up, and then it shows that the people that we're dealing with are healthy people.
And the people who don't want to return our phone calls, their stock goes down.
One would hope.
Okay. I think that's enough for our APEC edition of Embedded Insiders.
Yeah, very
Sounds like a
good.
plan to me, my friend.
Good stuff,
He's Alix Paultre, in case you want to know. I'm Rich Nass.
Brandon Lewis here.
Laura Dolan, thank you for joining us.
See you next time.